We are now ready, Mr. Chair.
Seeing it's 4:01, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, actually gentlemen, for coming in to our meeting of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. This is a hearing of the Committee of Adjustment for the Town of Pelham. Everyone present will be given an opportunity to comment on the applications being heard. Please address your comments through the chair. This public meeting has been called to satisfy the requirements of the Planning Act and council bylaws. Notice of this meeting has been given by prepaid first-class mail to all persons listed as owners in the last revised assessment roll within 60 meters, 200 feet, of the subject properties. In addition, a public notice sign has been placed on the lands. Agencies commenting on the application may request that certain conditions be imposed, should an application be approved. Voicing objections to these conditions will not adversely affect the committee's decision. The purpose of the application and relative correspondence will be heard, following which the applicant will be given an opportunity to address the application. Any person concerned with the application will then be given an opportunity to speak. Please state your name and mailing address for the record. At the conclusion of the discussion, the committee will render a decision and advise of any applicable conditions. Specific wording for the conditions will be determined by the committee following the public portion of this hearing. All interested parties are invited to be present. Copies of the decisions will be mailed to the applicant or agent and to any other person who files a written request. There are colored forms on the back of that table for this purpose. So if you would like to get a copy of the decision, you're not the applicant, please fill out one of the forms and you will be mailed a copy of the committee's decision. Any person, corporation, or public body has the right to appeal either the decision itself or the conditions of consent to the local appeal body within 20 days of the decision for minor variances and with 20 days of the mailing of the decision for consent applications. The panel today consists of, to my far left, Mr. Bernie Law, to my immediate left, Sheldon, Bill Sheldon, and I'm Don Cook. Members of the panel, does any member of the panel have any pecuniary interest in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act in any of the applications being considered at this hearing?
I do not.
I do not. And I also do not have any. Madam Secretary, are there any requests for withdrawal or adjournment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, there is not.
The first file we're going to deal with today is A21 2019. The application is at 954 River Road in Pelham. Madam Secretary, would you read the correspondence, please?
Committee of Adjustment hearing, Tuesday, November 5th, 2019. Please note, no decisions have been made prior to this public meeting. This presentation is based upon the Town of Pelham's Planning Department report and analysis. All comments received from commenting agencies and the public have been forwarded in full to the Committee of Adjustment members for their consideration. Application for minor variance. File A21/2019P, 594 River Road. Excerpts from Planning Report. The subject land is located on the south side of River Road, lying east of Cream Street, known municipally as 954 River Road in the Town of Pelham. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 7.4D, minimum front yard, seeking 3.2 meters, whereas 13 meters is permitted. Section 7.7A, max accessory lot coverage, seeking 6.3%, whereas 1% is permitted. Section 7.7A, max overall lot coverage, seeking 13%, whereas 10% is permitted. And Section 7.7D, max accessory building height, seeking 7 meters, whereas 3.7 meters is permitted. To date, the following comments have been received. Public Works, requesting a comprehensive overall lot grading plan, requesting a minimum front yard setback of 5 meters. Building, a building permit is required prior to construction commencing. Niagara Region, no objection. Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. The NPC is of the opinion that the proposed garage will not adversely impact the stability of the land area over the long term. Further, because the landscape is already manicured lawn, there will be no additional adverse impacts to any environmental features on the site. Based on a site visit, the proposed garage appears to be located outside the floodplain hazard. An NPCA work permit will be required prior to the issuance of a building permit. No public comments have been received. Is the variance minor in nature? The requested variance together, as proposed, are minor in nature because sufficient information now exists to evaluate whether the garage will be safely located away from the stable top of slope and to minimize any adverse impacts to the regulated hazard lands. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The requested variance together, as proposed, are desirable for the use of the land. The garage will also enhance the subject lands by providing additional storage space. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The proposed use of the building accessory to a single detached house is permitted in the good general agricultural designation of the official plan, and the policy does permit uses which are compatible with agriculture. The increase in accessory building height will not compromise the objective of the official plan. Increasing the accessory building lot coverage will not impede the private servicing capacity of the septic system and does not raise any issues with the official plan policies. Permitting the increase of a lot coverage will not impact the safety of the property or adjacent lands. The variance maintains the policy intent of the town official plan, particularly policy B3.7, which deals with valley lands, floodplains, and slope stability issues. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The proposed variances meet the purpose of the zoning bylaw because the revised location of the accessory building is a permitted use in the agricultural zone. The proposed reduction front yard setback maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw because it is now located wholly outside of the prohibited hazard zone and is situated within the A zone. Planning comments. Based on the revised submission, revised agency comments, together with the findings from the geotechnological slope stability analysis, increasing the maximum lot coverage, and the balance of the requested zoning relief, are not expected to adversely impact the proposed garage, septic system, or neighboring lands in proximity to the development. The property falls within the NPCA advisory floodplain mapping area, but the proposed garage is located outside the floodplain. It is now known that the proposed garage will be located at a safe distance from the stable top of slope to ensure no long-term impacts of the integrity of the ground. The septic system is also located at the required distance from the proposed garage. The applicant has provided a geotechnical analysis prepared by a qualified engineer as required by the NPCA and town staff. Based on the findings of this analysis, NPCA staff and town planning staff can now offer support for the requested zoning deficiencies. Town planning staff previously note that the original proposed garage location was partly located within the hazard zone. The hazard zone prohibits accessory building uses outright. The revised site plan now proposes the relocated garage footprint entirely within the agricultural zone and outside of the hazard zone, which means the use is now permitted. As a result, the applicant has requested a shorter front yard setback as an alternative to obtain a zoning bylaw amendment, which is considerably more onerous undertaking. The shorter front yard setback helps ensure the stable top of bank is at an even safer distance than what is considered permissible at the geotechnological level. While Public Works staff commented that a minimum front yard setback of 5 meters should be maintained, it is our understanding that they do not wish private vehicles parking in front of the garage to overhang the front lot line into the public right-of-way allowance. Planning staff note that this is unlikely occurrence because there is sufficient parking available in the large wraparound driveway to park numerous vehicles. Furthermore, the town has bylaws in place which regulate these infractions, and enforcement of said bylaws is always an option should the need arise. As a result, planning staff would support the requested front yard setback reduction. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out by the Planning Act. The application is consistent with provincial policies, the regional official plan, and conforms to the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. Planning staff recommend that the application number A21/2019P be approved, subject to the following conditions. That the applicant obtain an MPCA work permit prior to the issuance of a building permit, that all necessary building permits are required prior to construction commencing, to submit an overall lot grading and drainage plan to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, and at the building permit stage in accordance with the official plan policy B3.7.3.1 and the slope sustainability assessment construction recommendation to the Director of Community Planning and Development.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is there anyone here representing the applicant?
Just me. I am the applicant.
Well, please come and have a chair. State your name and your address, please, for the record.
Randy Bartok, 594 River Road.
Do you have any comments you wish to make with regard to the report that we've just,
No, I'm not referring to that, no.
does any member of the committee have any questions of the applicant?
Not of the applicant, no.
I only have one question. The height, what is going to be the height of your garage, like from the roadway? Is it like, what I'm interested in, we're going for seeking 7 meter height versus 3.7. So is the pitch of your roof, the top of your roof actually going to be higher than the elevation of the top of the roof of the house right now?
No, it's just I got 10 foot, I want 10 foot inside,
Okay.
but it's a lower, shallow
Because
pitch.
it drops off so rapidly toward that's the reason why we're going for a height increase, I guess. You're not planning to have any plumbing or anything in the new garage?
No, it's just a garage. I got a couple vehicles, I'm gonna have a new vehicle next year. I actually had to sell one of my Corvettes, because I had no place to put it. I'm paying for storage big time. I need a garage.
Is there anyone in the audience who wants to make a comment on this application? Are we ready to render a decision, members of the chair of the committee?
Move the recommendation.
I can second that.
Mr. Chairman, now that the motion is on the floor, I've got a couple of things to ask, either through you or directly to you. Condition 2 in the outline that we've received for this application makes no reference to the condition that no living accommodation or plumbing be supplied within that building. I wonder if it's appropriate to amend the application to include that. And the other thought I had was lot grading and drainage. The synopsis that is supplied to us varies from the one that the secretary read to us, but it still did not make reference to drainage will be required to not rely on neighboring property. And I wondered if it's appropriate to add that.
With regard to the, I would agree with, we move maybe an amendment to the conditions. And I would suggest that we probably put a condition in that building permits required prior to construction, no living accommodation or plumbing should probably be added to that condition.
So moved?
And I do tend to agree with the comment that you have to deal with your overland drainage on your own. You can't dump it over onto your neighbor's property. And that's something that we're pretty well standardizing on these days. And your lot grading plan should show that you're managing to deal with all the water that's generated on your property, on your property, and not transferring it to a swale that's in your neighbor's land. And I think that's probably a good, those are both good suggestions. Bill?
So move the second one?
So we're granting file A21 219P 594 River Road is being granted. What are our reasons?
The variance is minor. General intent and purposes of the bylaws maintained. Intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. Proposal is desirable for the use of the land, as the garage will provide additional storage space. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agree with the minor variance report analysis and recommendations as amended, that this application meets the Planning Act test for minor variance. And then the decision is subject to the, I guess that's where the amendments come in, so the above decision is subject to the following amended conditions. NPC work permits be issued prior to permit. Building permits are required with no living accommodation or plumbing within the accessory building. A lot grading and drainage plan shall be submitted to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works, showing that the drainage will be required to not rely on neighboring properties. And then whatever the secretary quoted in details that is included in the report on page
Page 6.
6? Okay. Does that all make any sense? Holly, are you happy with that?
I have that.
Thank you.
All in favor? Any opposed? It's granted.
Thank you.
Our next application is,
Did you have any?
Yeah, I got one question.
Yeah.
I just want some consideration on the fee for this meeting. I was all prepared for the last one, with the help from people upstairs and downstairs. I was all ready to go. NPCA stepped in 3 days prior to my meeting. Oh, you need this, you need that. They cashed my check 5 weeks ahead of time, but they waited 3 days before they came out to look at it and said, well, now you gotta get soil tested. I'd just like to see that fee waived, if it's possible.
You're referencing the rescheduling fee, are you?
Yes. Like I said, I was all ready to go, especially with the help from upstairs and downstairs here. I know I looked into it last year in October, and I went down there, and actually I've got it in my binder, but MPCA, Mackenzie, I believe it was, Darren or something, said, yeah, go ahead with your minor variance, which I didn't get started till April, May or something of this year. Then
You have that?
I've got what they gave me.
While you're looking at that, through you, Mr. Chairman, we have the planner here and we have our secretary here. The circulation was complete? NPC was circulated?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, yes, we did circulate the NPCA. We gave them the amount of time that they would need to comment, and we received their comments a few days, I think, before the application, which is regular in course.
To my knowledge, this application had not been circulated until we've just received it. Is that, this is the first time we have actually seen this application, as I
Through you,
understand
Mr.
it.
Chair, this application was circulated and scheduled, I believe, for the August Committee of Adjustment hearing. Mr. Bertok did at that point ask for for an adjournment because he had to satisfy some items in regards to the NPCA was not seized. Perhaps you were not at the August meeting and it was a different chair, perhaps. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but he was granted at that time his adjournment to come back when he was able to satisfy the NPCA's comments.
I was not here in the August meeting. Bill, you,
Yeah, it was,
it would have been the,
yeah. The NPCA comments, were they, in the opinion of the staff, were they late in coming?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would refer that to Curtis, our planner. He's normally, he gets the comments first.
Through the chair, the NPCA comments, the initial ones came on July 31st, 2019, which would have been, that hearing was on August 13th. So it would have came in before the deadline for agency comment. So it wasn't, they didn't come in late.
And those comments reflect what we're looking at now?
Well, those were the original comments.
These
since
were the original comments.
The ones on July 31st for the first hearing where it was deferred were the original comments. Upon the resubmission with the revised site plan and the geotechnical report, the NPCA submitted amended comments, which are dated for, I don't know, whenever they came in, but for this hearing. But the ones you guys are referring to were on July 31st. Those ones came in on time, like according to the deadline that we have for agency comments.
What about the revised comments for this hearing?
Chair, the revised comments came in on October 2nd, so a month ago, which is well before the agency comments would have been for this one, which are usually, I don't know, I'd defer to the secretary treasurers, but like it's I think a week or two before my reports due, I think agency, if that sounds about right, Holly?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't have the schedule in front of me. I can try to pull that up, but normally I believe that you get the comments perhaps 5 business days before.
The date was October 24th that was required. However, through you, Mr. Chair, I just would like to point out that comments can come in even at the public hearing because this is a hearing under the Planning Act, so comments can come in as late as now.
So there's no such thing as lateness.
No, and I just want to confirm with our planner that pre-consultation is not mandatory for minor variance applications.
Yeah.
However, our information packages to all of our applicants does suggest that these agencies be contacted. I believe the applicant has indicated he was in touch with the Conservation Authority
Yes.
before the initial application. But in terms of comments being received, they can come in as late as the hearing itself.
Mr. Chairman, does the note that was passed to you have any bearing on what we're talking about?
no, this appears to be a fee from by the Conservation Authority.
How much money are we talking?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that the rescheduling fee currently is $220.
Based on what I just heard, I don't see a reason to waive it. I'll move that. Do we have to have a motion on this, Madam Secretary?
Well, you are making a decision, so I would suggest that it get a motion so that it gets voted on.
So moved.
The motion is to defer the fee?
No.
Refund the rescheduling fee?
No,
To maintain the,
to maintain.
maintain the fee? Have a seconder? Bernie will have a second.
Thank you.
All in favor? I'm opposed.
Thank you.
Based on the decision of the committee, the rescheduling fee stands, and you will not be refunded.
Okay.
Okay? You better come and get this,
I'll just make sure that anything I do from here on, I'll get it on paper.
Always.
Signed.
Always.
the next application for consideration is the minor variance application A24, 2019, 70 Bergenstein Crescent in the town of Pelham.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I do not see the applicant here at the moment for this application. He was emailed and advised of the date, time, and hearing, as I do all applicants, but currently I do not see him in the gallery. Perhaps you may want to move to the next application, and should he show up, hear it after.
Oh, seeing Mr. Highcoop is not here, we will move to the next application, which is a minor variance application A25, 2019, 749 Foss Road in the town of Pelham. As the representative applicant, would you please come up and join us? Please state your name, address for the record.
My name's Trevor, 749 Foss Road.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please outline the summary of the comments that we've received to date.
Application for minor variance, file A25/2019P, 749 Foss Road. Excerpts from planning report. The subject land is located on the north side of Foss Road, lying east of Church Street, known municipally as 749 Foss Road. The minor variance application requests relief from Section 7.7A, max accessory lot coverage, seeking 2.5%, whereas 1% is permitted. Section 7.7D, max accessory building height, seeking 5.15 meters, whereas 3.7 meters is permitted. To date, the following comments have been received. Niagara Region, no objections, provided no washrooms, plumbing, or living spaces included. Public Works, no comments. Building, a building permit will be required. If the existing shed to be removed is over 10 meters square, then a demolition permit will be required. Is the variance minor in nature? The variance to increase accessory building lot coverage to 2.5% is minor overall, as adequate land area remains available to handle storm water runoff, the septic system, and preserve the rear yard amenity area. Increasing the accessory building height to 5.15 meters is minor given the rural context. No negative impacts are anticipated by the adjacent neighbors, as over 20 meters separates the nearest residential neighborhood from the building site. The setback of the building minimizes the impact of its height on nearby properties by placing it to the rear of the lot, ensuring it remains secondary in scale to the principal dwelling. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? Increasing the accessory building lot coverage is desirable for the land because it allows for enhanced use of the rural residential property, for which is relatively small in size for an agricultural area. The variance request to increase the accessory building height is desirable for the property as it allows for enhanced storage and use of the facility. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The proposed use of the building accessory to a single detached house is permitted in the specialty agricultural designation of the official plan, and the policy does permit uses which are compatible with agriculture. The increase in accessory building height and lot coverage will not compromise the objective of the official plan. The variances are appropriate given the site's rural context and meets the general intent of the town's official plan policies. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The size of the proposed accessory building's height to 5.15 meters and increased lot coverage to 2.5% is appropriate given the rural context. Reasonable amounts of open space remain available on the site for amenity area, stormwater runoff, and sewage system purposes. Thus, the increased height and lot coverage will not adversely impact the agricultural character of the area or surrounding countryside. The variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application satisfies the Planning Act. The subject application is consistent with provincial policies, the regional official plan, and complies with the general intent of the town official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is expected to generate negative impacts on adjacent uses or community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that application file number A25/2019 be approved, subject to the following. That a building permit be required. If the existing shed to be removed is over 10 meters square, then a demolition permit is to be required. The accessory building foundation be slab on-grade style construction with no basement or traditional footing required, deep excavation. No plumbing or additional living space be installed within the proposed accessory building.
Do you have any
Yes.
comments you wish to add to the what we've just heard?
Can we go back to that last clip? Is that possible?
Yes, of course. Just one moment. Sorry, it's okay. I just had to make sure the doors stayed open. Sorry, I'm going back to previous slide.
Yes.
This one?
Nope, the other one. Nope, the one that talked about slab on grade.
I believe that was a comment made by the building department as a condition.
Oh,
I think it's on the condition page. Bullet number 3.
yes, the accessory building foundation be slab on grade style. Like, I'm not planning to put a basement in, but essentially, because of the size, I was thinking footings and walls. Like,
Basically, you're going to need a frost wall.
sorry?
You're going to need what we call a frost wall,
Yes.
okay? And I can see that just because of the size of the structure you're going to put on top, because otherwise you're going to have one massively thick
Floor.
slab.
Yeah. So, I mean, what I was hoping to do was to put a footing in with a 4-foot wall.
So the top of the wall would basically come to 6 inches above grade.
Exactly.
So it's a non-excavated space under the floor,
Exactly.
which is in effect a slab on
Slab on
grade.
grade.
Oh, okay. Okay, I would have thought different.
No, you're not, we didn't ask you to build a floating slab.
Oh, okay. Okay.
It's not a structural slab.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
So, if you submit plans showing a frost wall,
Yeah.
which is probably OBC required,
Okay.
and the slab is on grade,
Yes.
the area under the slab is non-excavated,
Exactly.
the only thing you'll have under there is some granular and,
Okay.
yeah, compacted and whatnot.
Yeah.
Okay.
That works.
All right. I'm just confused.
That, okay, that's our understanding,
Okay.
okay? So other than that, you're more or less agreeable to the conditions imposed?
100%.
The peak of your garage is going to be relatively high, but since you're quite a bit off the road, it's really not going to impact your neighbor, who currently is building looks like a greenhouse for to park his trailer under. Looks like you're starting to put up a tubular greenhouse, so it's,
That, I think, will be a lot higher.
yours is gonna be a lot higher than that. 25 feet to the pitch of your roof it's getting up there. But I think you're far enough back, I agree with the planner's comments, that it's really shouldn't affect your neighbor. Any other comments from members of the committee?
I think it's a nice-looking building, and it'll do their property a benefit to your property. I think it looks good, and the neighbors next door with buildings as well.
Gary, yes. Chambers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are, any other comments, Mr. Sheldon? I have no further comments.
Chair.
Are we ready to make a decision, members?
Yes. Yes. I so move.
Seconded.
And we're granting the variances as
The variance,
825, 29 are granted?
yeah, I just gotta find my classroom here. The variance is the variance is minor in nature. The general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. The intent of the official plan is maintained. The proposal is desirable for the use of land as it enhances the usability of the land. The application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. The Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance report analysis and recommendation that the application meets the Planning Act's test for minor variance. The above decision is subject to the following conditions. Obtain a building permit with no living accommodations or plumbing within the accessory building. Obtain a demolition permit if necessary to remove the existing shed, that the accessory building foundation be slab on grade style construction. Now, should this also say that there's a 4-foot footing around the slab?
I think what we'll find is that the slab on grade, he's gonna have to submit plans to the chief building official. The chief building official will review them. I believe he's proposing basically what's required. And this is, actually, it is a slab on grade with a frost wall.
It's just the term includes basically a foundation.
Yeah.
See, I was under the impression a slab on grade is your frost wall, your floor, everything all in one, but I guess not.
Yes, madam.
Through you, Mr. Chair, everything will have to be
Approved by them.
submitted to the chief building official. So the building department will make the best determination based on the Ontario Building Code. I would suggest that putting too many specifics into a condition could potentially delay the permit issuance.
I think we should just follow the condition as stated in the report.
Yes. No change made.
Yeah, the accessory building foundation be slab on grade style construction. Are we ready to vote on it? All in favor? Carried.
Thank you. I can leave now?
You're all set? You're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're all ready to
Serving lunch, so what the?
You're all ready to start putting your plans together.
All right, thank you.
We're back to A2419. Seeing no representative, do we need one?
So through you, Mr. Chair, the notice of hearing is very clear in that it states that if the applicant does not appear, the committee can continue with the hearing the application.
Does anybody
Have
want to,
representation.
do you want to proceed with this application, gentlemen, or do we want to,
Move to proceed, Mr. Chair.
with that being said,
Is there a
Madam
seconder?
Secretary?
Is there a seconder? Mr. Chair?
I'll second that.
All in favor? Carried. Madam Secretary, you want to read the correspondence to date
Yes, I will just get that up for you.
and the planning report, please?
Okay. File A24/2019 P 70 Bergenstein Crescent. Excerpts from planning report. The subject land is located on the north side of Bergenstein Court, known municipally as 70 Bergenstein Crescent, in the town of Pelham. The minor variance application requests relief from section 6.35C, yard encroachments, unenclosed porches, to permit a porch height of 2.86 meters, whereas porch heights not exceeding 1.3 meters are allowed to encroach within a required yard setback. To date, the following comments have been received. Public Works, no comments. Building, a building permit is required for the proposed covered deck. Is the variance minor in nature? The proposed porch height of 2.86 meters is minor given the urban context, scale of the neighborhood's rear yards, orientation, and proximity to the adjacent trail. No negative impacts are anticipated by the adjacent neighbors or the uses of the trail along the storm water channel behind the lots. Is the variance desirable for the development or use of the land? The proposed variance is desirable for the use of the land because it provides for a larger porch footprint, enhancing its usability for recreation and livability. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of the official plan? The official plan does not speak to covered rear porches on residential dwellings, but does encourage uses which are compatible with the neighborhood character. The covered rear porch is not foreseen to compromise the objectives of the official plan. Does the variance maintain the general intent and purpose of zoning bylaw? The size of the proposed covered rear deck's height at 2.86 meters is comparable with the adjacent neighboring homes. The variance is appropriate given the situational context, and the added height will not adversely impact the residential nature of the lot or the open space area to the north. Therefore, the variance maintains the intent of the zoning bylaw. Planning staff is of the opinion that the application meets the 4 minor variance tests laid out by the Planning Act. The application is consistent with provincial policies, the original official plan, and conforms to the general intent of the town's official plan and zoning bylaw. The authorization of the minor variance is not expected to generate negative impacts for adjacent uses or for the community at large. Consequently, planning staff recommend that the application number A24/2019 P be approved. That all necessary building permits are required prior to construction commencing are obtained.
Okay. Well, there's no one in the audience. Any comments from members of the panel?
Move the application be granted, Mr. Chair.
I will second that.
I have no further comments, Mr. Chair.
Everything's
Okay. What is the decision of the committee? Are we ready to vote on it? We've got a mover and a second. All in favor? Carried. Now, go through the list. Why, my son?
The application is granted. On the basis of the variance is minor in nature. The general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained. Intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. Proposal is desirable for the use of the land to allow an extended living area to the home. This application is granted without prejudice to any other application in the town of Pelham. No objections were received from commenting agencies or abutting property owners. Committee of Adjustment considered the written and oral comments and agrees with the minor variance reports analysis and recommendation that this application meet Planning Act tests for minor variance. The above decision is subject to the following conditions. Building permits are required prior to the construction of the satisfaction of the chief building official.
Member Sheldon, I'd like to make a minor amendment to the condition. Building permits are required for the proposed covered deck prior to construction to the satisfaction of. Seeing that was the comment actually from the chief building official, this is related to the construction of the proposed covered deck.
Move the amendment, Mr. Chair.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Condition as amended. And our next orders of business are, seeing there are no applications for consent, we're going to move minutes for approval. First set of minutes are for the meeting of Tuesday, July the 9th.
Move the minutes, Mr. Chair.
I will have to second that. All in favor? Carried. Next set of minutes are for the meeting of September the 10th. As prepared, move the minutes approved as prepared for the meeting of Tuesday, September the 10th. All in favor? Minutes of the meeting of Tuesday, October the 1st. Approval of the minutes as prepared.
Moved.
You can't do it.
Oh, was I
Bernie?
chair on that one?
Bernie and I.
Sorry.
All in favor? Carried. And with that, I guess we can move, ask for a motion for adjournment. Moved by Member Law,
I so move.
seconded by Councillor Sheldon. All in favor? Carried.